Welcome to the Speaker Wars, Google versus Apple. Hi, welcome back. So today we're comparing Apple's HomePods to Google's smart speakers. The question I'm trying to answer is whether or not one brand makes more sense than the other. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. Let's start with setup. So despite my digs at Apple, I do use Mac and iPhone as my primary phone and computer, and so unsurprisingly, these speakers were incredibly easy to set up. I didn't have to enter Wi-Fi passwords or anything. iPhones have this cool feature where if another Apple device is trying to get onto the network, my iPhone will notice and offer to let me authenticate it. It's very cool. This is basically how setting up your HomePods works. It's been a while since I set up any Google Homes, but as far as I know, it's not difficult. So on this point, I'd say they're about equal. Next, bass. One of the first things that really struck me about the big HomePod was its bass. Shortly after plugging it in, I was listening to some William Eyelash, and I was struck by how much more prevalent the bass was. Say what you will about Apple's prices, but they did build a speaker that sounds remarkably nice. Wonderful dynamic range. When compared to the biggest Google Home, I'd have to say that Apple wins hands down. Here's the thing though, looking at the size and design of Google's biggest speaker, I'd have to say that it's kind of unfair to compare the HomePod to the biggest Google Home, especially if you take into account pricing and size. The biggest smart speaker that Google currently offers is priced a lot more closely to the HomePod mini. So as far as it goes, it's worth acknowledging that Apple does have a better speaker, but it's also in a totally different price bracket. Next, voices. As far as comparing Assistant goes, I'm shocked at how much nicer Apple's voices are. Like I said, I use an iPhone regularly, but I was not really prepared for how human Siri sounds on the HomePod. I don't know why Siri is different on the HomePod, but it is. Something I noticed about my HomePod is that when I add songs with my phone, there's a slight interruption to the song that's playing. It's kind of weird. Lastly, I just wanted to say that Siri is now astoundingly good at reading. At one point, they read me a list of ingredients and the tonality was really nuanced, like so good that I would consider letting it read a book. I haven't tested that, however. Next, HomePods and Android. Okay, so I did not test this personally, but a close friend of mine does use Apple Music on Android, and she says that it's remarkably good. Something else to note is that Apple doesn't have a way to natively share grocery lists. This is something that I and my partner use a lot, so to me it's important. Thankfully, the Android store has a free app called Open Tasks, which does this. I'll link to it below the like button. It has good ratings and it's free to download if you like. Next, answers. One thing that I was worried about with switching to Apple was getting answers to questions. As you probably know, Google speakers are fiendishly good at this, and Siri has always been a little disappointing in this realm, which is why I don't ask Siri questions on my phone that much. Imagine my surprise then upon asking a few questions and then getting really clear, well-sourced answers from Wikipedia and the like. Now let's be clear, it's not as good as Google, but if Google's answers are at an 8.5, then Apple is at like a 6.5 or a 7. Siri was able to answer most of my questions without any trouble, and when she couldn't, she sent me a link to my phone. Next, mic sensitivity. Something Google struggles with is hearing something which users are saying when loud music is playing. This makes perfect sense. Imagine holding a speaker to your ear and then trying to have a conversation with your friends 5 or 6 feet away. What's crazy about HomePod is that somehow they got around this. The music can be quite loud and it doesn't really seem to matter. And no, I don't think it's using my iPhone's mics. I know this because my partner uses Android and he gets the same results. On the note of alarms, I had a nice little surprise. I was lying in bed and my bathroom alarm started going off for some reason. Sleepily, I told it to stop, and my bedroom speaker picked up my request and passed it along to the bathroom speaker. I don't think my Google Homes would have done this. On the note of mic sensitivity, I did just want to say that it's impressive to me how well it works while I'm in the shower. With the Google Home, I often find myself having to yell and repeat myself and try again. But with the HomePod, it was strikingly accurate and it regularly got it on the first try, which is impressive to me. On the other hand, when I'm standing in the kitchen talking to my HomePod in the living room, it's really nice not to have to yell anymore. I can just speak in a normal voice and typically she can hear me. Next, music and sound quality. I think that overall it's pretty obvious that Apple has Google beat here. Apple speakers get much louder than Google's, and that's saying something because for their size, Google speakers get quite loud already. Above and beyond loudness, however, Apple speakers just have really incredible range, no question. Something I miss about Spotify, however, is the quirkiness of user-generated playlists. For example, if one were feeling a certain animosity towards their estranged parents, it would be really easy to find a fuck you mom and dad playlist on Spotify. However, I can't really find this on Apple Music. Spotify's use of algorithmic suggestions is, I think, the best in the industry. I haven't found anyone better. And honestly, I think this is a feature that is becoming an increasingly more important thing for audiences, including myself. Interface and voice commands. Okay, so now let's talk about the interface. This one's gonna be a doozy. Something that I dislike about Google speakers is that when I'm using Spotify and I want to cast to a speaker, I need to reach out and connect to it, kind of like doing a Bluetooth connection. Sometimes connecting takes forever for some reason. Apple software, on the other hand, is way better at this. When you're in the music app, there's just a little list of your devices and you can choose the device that you want to control. And it's almost like I'm always connected. which is just so much better. Something I didn't like about this experience was that if I don't control a speaker or a phone for a while after it started playing, my phone will just kind of forget that it's controlling it, meaning that I have to go back and reselect it. Something else that I love about using HomePod and Hey Siri is that I can verbally cue songs again. That basically just means summoning Siri and then saying, please play this song next, which just feels natural and is nice. Google hasn't added support for this. Something that Google has that Apple doesn't is stop for alarms. When an alarm goes off on my Google Home, I can just yell stop at it. It's a very knee-jerk reaction, and frankly, I dislike having to say a summoning phrase and then stop. It's just not intuitive. Something I do like about the software design with Apple Music is that if I'm controlling all of my speakers' volumes, I'm changing the volume of each speaker at its current volume. So if I wanted it quieter in the bathroom and I turn things up a little, it only gets louder relative to what the bathroom speaker was before. On the note of volume, if I'm using Apple's Music app and I'm controlling speakers' volume, I need to have Apple Music's app open to control the volume with my volume rocker. Now, to me, it feels a lot more intuitive to just have that as the default if I have music playing on my speakers. This works for most cases and feels like the best option to me. But here's the one thing that's really terrible about the experience. Let's say I'm playing a game on my phone and then I summon Siri for a task. When I do this, every Apple device in my home will light up. Normally, this wouldn't be a big deal, but sometimes I'm playing a real-time game with friends, and that basically means that for about 2 seconds while it realizes which device I'm talking to, my game is paused. That's really irritating. On top of that, this happens no matter what. It interrupts the flow of use, and frankly, it just feels like bad design. Here's what I think Apple should do. If I'm home and my HomePods know it, and they will, in that case, if I make a request to Siri, it's almost always for the speaker and not for my phone. In that case, I'd like Hey Siri on my phone to automatically turn off while I'm connected to my home Wi-Fi. The only exception, of course, being if I have my AirPods in, which brings me to the next issue, the AirPods. Obviously, orchestrating this many Siri-enabled devices is difficult, but having AirPods adds another issue. When I've got those in, all my commands default to my phone. This is great when I'm out and about, but it sucks when I'm at home again because I'm almost never trying to talk directly to my phone. What's ironic to me about this is that because of this, it's actually more user-friendly just to have a Google Home instead of a HomePod. We're getting a kind of tech pileup, and it's really not very pretty. Another solution might be being able to give different summoning phrases to different devices. Additionally, for some reason, even though I can use my phone to control my HomePod, it's an extra step in the process and I don't really feel like it's intuitive. On the note of controlling speakers through other devices, I can't seem to control my smart speakers through my laptop, which is weird. I'm not sure why. One last glitch. Sometimes when I ask Siri to start a radio based on a song that I like, she plays Beats One or whatever Apple's radio station is, and that is annoying. I dislike that Apple seems eager to push their curated content. Now, this could just be an accidental glitch. I'm not really 100% sure. Conclusion. Hi. Wow, you're still watching. You are a legend. Holy shit. Okay, so I think for me, the bottom line at the moment is that I would rather have Google Homes than Apple's HomePods. Mostly because of the tech pileup we talked about. Having Siri on 6 different devices just gets messy, and frankly, if Apple had lived up to their usual software excellence, I probably wouldn't be saying this. The other thing that's sad to me about this is that this could be fixed in the next software update, but we just don't know if that's coming. That said, it's just too messy to have HomePods and an iPhone with Siri enabled. Also, Google's Reminders app plays so much more nicely with Apple's iPhone, which brings me to the last thing. Price. To replicate my Google Home setup with a HomePod and 2 HomePod minis with taxes costs just under $690. The latest, nicest speakers from Google would cost less than half that. If price is any consideration at all, Google has all the capability at a fraction of the price, and frankly, if I was desperate for better sound, I could just buy an audio casting dongle and hook it up to an old amp or a subwoofer or something. Not that complicated. Here's the bottom line. Apple's quality is undeniable. It's a great speaker and it performs significantly better than I expected it to. And it's slowly creeping up on Google's place in the market. If they're not careful, they might lose it. As it stands, however, Google's got them beat. Okay, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll be right back.